Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I am Sean Okimale here in Abuja. We begin the program tonight on a rather sad note. The loss of the leader of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, Pandev, Chief Edwin Clark, has been announced to have died today at the age of 97. The death of the former Federal Commissioner for Information and South-South leader was confirmed by a family representative, Professor C.C. Clark, earlier today. The statement read, quote, the Clark Fuludu Bekaradermo family of Kiagbodo Town, Delta State, wishes to announce the passing of Chief Dr. Senator Edwin Kiagbodo Clark, OFR-CON, on Monday, 17 February 2025. Of course, a lot of people know that this is a man that is that has a lot of conviction, and he does not keep quiet in speaking up about his convictions. He's one of a prominent man in the Niger Delta who spoke up his mind and spoke of truth to power until he departed this world. May he so rest in peace. So a lot of issues are up for conversation. A lot of those of you are asking, what is the Tinubu government, what are they doing exactly with the economy? So there was a rebasing of the CPI, which we're going to analyze. Is as if you realize that there's a need based on international or other country standards, and you want to change the prices of commodities or prices of items, and you rebase. Well, we'll be getting to analyze what the rebasing of the inflation means. Which of the past few presidents have done that? So when the rebasing happened today, announced by the NBS, it came to something. Over 30% of the headline inflation dropped drastically to 24% because the baseline, the parameters have changed. All of this analysis we do for you tonight. Are these artificial? Are they organic or not? Is the Tinubu government trying to, play with those figures to, to politically drop things, or they are really the situation of things? There are those who are researching and looking at the real prices of commodities in the market, because that's the only way you can be able to measure whether in reality the rebasing reflects what exactly we have seen today. The question is on what year are you, what are the figures, from which year are you rebasing? Is it a year that is comfortable for you or what? I mean, I believe tonight we'll be getting us, we're speaking to experts on the program tonight, but we're also not going to not talk about what happened on this program when the SSG of Edo State spoke about Edo Best. The Obaseki team are also reacting. We'll be getting some reaction. And I'll take you to also Osun State, where we'll be getting some legal perspectives on what is happening, the killings, and the bottom line, the local government controversy. So much to talk about tonight. So sit out, everyone. But first, before we dig into the Tinubunomics and how they are hoping to change things around, I also heard that the FX, the naira to the dollar exchange today also dropped. So we'll be looking at a lot of these issues. But first, the political roundup stories.
The House of Representatives is blaming the recent rise in the killing of women on the delay in justice delivery. In the motion sponsored by 4 lawmakers, they listed the women who have been murdered over the years, pointing out that justice has still not been served, and this has fueled the boldness of killers. The House is convinced that establishing special divisions within existing courts with exclusive jurisdiction over homicide and related cases will expedite justice, reduce backlogs, and restore public confidence in the legal system. The House is also calling on the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to conduct by-elections for vacant seats in the national and state assemblies. Former President Goodluck Jonathan is urging Nigerians to reject politicians involved in electoral malpractices. He made the call at the official launch of 2 books authored by the former Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, in Abuja. The former president, who harped on the need for the advancement of the electoral management body in the country, also condemned the over-policing of electoral processes in Nigeria.
One gets worried when you come to Nigerian elections. Just like Arase said, the key actors in the elections are the electoral management body, in our own case the INEC, and the police. And sometimes elections are done anyhow of the like. Why so?
Ondo State Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa has urged the newly elected chairman of the 18 local government areas of the state to be committed to the service of the people. The governor stated this while delivering his address at the swearing-in ceremony of the chairman in Akure, the state capital.
The oath you have just taken is not a mere formality, but a solemn promise to serve our people with integrity, honesty, and transparency.
The House of Assembly in Benue State has removed Justice Maurice Ikembese as the Chief Judge and recommended the swearing-in of Justice Theresa Igoche, who is the next most senior judge, as the acting Chief Judge in Benue State. The House plenary, which was presided over by the Speaker, became tense when the Majority Leader, Mr. Sata Tise, read a letter from Governor Hyacinth Alia accusing the State Chief Judge of abuse of office, tampering with the state local government election law, corruption, inciting judicial strike, bribery, and fraternizing with politicians. Meanwhile, some stakeholders of the All Progressives Congress in Kwande and Ushongo federal constituencies in Benue Northeast Senatorial District have rejected the governorship seat come 2027 and resolved to support Governor Hyacinth Alia for a second term in office. This decision comes after another group from Kwande declared their interest in the 2027 governorship seat. Addressing some stakeholders in Makurdi, the state capital, the leader of the Kwande group, Mr. Tonguva Ugo, says Governor Hyacinth is doing well and there is no reason to cut his tenure short.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us on the program. Now, you're being served with your political roundup stories. So let's begin, everyone, and let's bring you perhaps your biggest story today in the land. Nigeria's headline inflation has dropped to 24.48% year-on-year in January 2025, as the latest figure released today by the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics. This is a sharp decline from the 34.80% headline inflation recorded in December of 2024. The National Bureau of Statistics today gave a press conference with the Statistician General of the Federation, Adeyemi Adeniro, made some announcement earlier today. It says the Consumer Price Index, the CPI, which measures the rate of change in prices of goods and commodities, had declined to 24.48% year-on-year in January. Let me allow you to listen to what Mr. Adeniro said earlier today.
The inflation rate, 24.48%, is it actually a fall in inflation rate? This is the new inflation rate based on the base year 2024. It is the actual inflation rate if we compare 2024 January to 2025 January. You can see that it's a short period, not like we are comparing with prices of 2009. So this figure is the actual. But when you say, does it mean that prices of goods and services in the market has come down? That is not what this figure is saying. This one is talking about the rate by which the prices are coming down. That's what it's measuring. But the actual price itself in the market is not what this one is talking about.
So let's take a look at some of the figures as announced today and what it means, from headline inflation to core inflation, food inflation. What are all the meanings of all of this? It meant that the rate at which things were going bad has dropped based on the rebasing of the inflation. That's the Consumer Price Index. So a lot of people who are watching tonight might be, and I'm going to break it down so that the average person will understand where we are. Is the economy better based on what the figures are? The figures are direct implication on what we feel and what we see, and based on what the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics said today, what can we expect in terms of the reality of the Nigerian economy? So let's look at it. You rebase the inflation or your GDP based on certain parameters. What are those parameters that were used today? But let me not do the talking. Let me bring in an economist, chief economist, as the SPM professionals, Mr. Dr. Paul Alaje is live for us tonight on the program. Dr. Alaje, thank you so much indeed.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I want us to For those of us who are not mathematically and numbers, some of us who are number deficient, I want us to lay it bare without using most of the technical jargon so that we can really understand what is going on, whether Nigerians are right in believing what they see today in terms of what the headlines are saying. Inflation dropped from 34% to 24% today. It means a lot, isn't it? If naturally, organically, it drops dramatically, this is magically dropping to that figure. But let's understand what is rebasing. We know that Jonathan rebased the GDP when Okonjo-Iweala was there. But this is a rebasing of the inflation, the consumer price index. In the layers, in the most simplest term, what is the rebasing of inflation?
Okay, thank you so very much. The answer to it is adjusting the reference year. What the Bureau of Statistics have done today is not to say that inflation dropped. That's not what Bureau of
Inflation has not dropped.
Bureau of Statistics is saying we are no longer going to reference 2009 as the base year. We will now start referencing 2024. And some reasons can be given to that. So it will be wrong for people to say inflation dropped from 34 to 24%. That would be a wrong narrative. But we are saying that because if it drops, what it means is that we should see the reflection in prices. That is, price should increase at an increasing rate of 24%. But that's not what we have seen. What Bureau of Statistics is saying is that 34%, that's 34.8%, was what we saw last in December. Why? Because the base year, the reference year, of course, will be the previous year, but that previous year takes its energy from 2009. But Bureau of Statistics is changing that 2009 reference year to 2024. Why? It's closest to 2025 too. Two key decisions took place in 2023. First, which I've discussed with you over and again, and I said is the reason why we have the kind of economic environment that we have. One is flotation of exchange rate, which took Naira from over 400 to around 1,900, now to 1,500, 1,550. Two, apart from that, we also saw subsidy removal. So these two policies, among others, have had impact on the economy. The wisest thing to do is to also make some necessary adjustment. It's like when Bureau of Statistics says unemployment has changed from, I think the right word to use is change, not drop. Unemployment has changed from 33.1% or 40% to 5.2%. Everybody say, no, that's not what Bureau of Statistics is saying. To my mind, except they want to say otherwise. What it means is that the reference has changed. As of that time, we were using 20 hours a week. Now we are using 1 hour a week, which means after this your 1 hour show, if you finish this 1 hour show today, which is Tuesday, you have worked, you are engaged. You may not work for the rest of the week again. That's what Bureau of Statistics say. Meanwhile, before, if you can do 1 hour, if you can do 20 hours, that's when we say that you are gainfully employed. But that narrative can get same with this. What has changed here is the reference year. It's no longer 2009. The new inflation figure going forward, pending the time we may want to rebase again, the start year will now be 2024.
Right.
So it will be comparing apple with banana. If we say that,
that's dropped.
And a lot of things will change.
Let's now take it one after the other. So for a lot of people who are watching, inflation has been used so generically and technically such that the meaning might be lost. But for our conversation tonight, inflation in the simplest of terms means the pace and the rate at which prices grow. Of commodities.
Average price level. So house rent will be going by 1,000%, and sachet water is only going by 5%. Then vehicle, Tokumbo vehicle, for instance, may be going by 85%. All of those are put together. Then we find the average of all of these commodities. Because sometimes some people say, well, you say inflation is growing, but I see buy tomato the same price, or my house rent, my landlord multiplied by 300%.
So there are
is the
difference
average
of those
that we are using. But also, for this inflation number, there is a weighted average. And the weighted average is what Bureau of Statistics call the COICOP. Before this announcement, food inflation alone was about 51.8%. In this new figure, food inflation of the total inflation and that inflation now accounts for only 40%. Then, before now, we have beverages, tobacco, and others accounted for 1.1%. Right now, is 0.4%. Transport accounted for 6.5%. In today's number, is now 10.7%. Then, if you look at education services, which was 3.9%, it has increased to 6.2%. What does it mean? Even the average has changed. If we still use the old food inflation, definitely the number will be higher than this.
Yeah, let me now take you on a few issues. Analysts will say the base year is important when you are rebasing.
Yes.
The question is whether the political volatility, economic volatility, or any situation around the country at the time you are determining the base year. 2024, is it a fair year to choose as a base year?
It's the safest year for government to use.
But is it a fair year?
No, so
maybe because there are those who say,
you know why?
Yeah.
Is it the year we can use?
It's safe for the government.
Yeah, it's the year that can give us a good number. And you see,
why not 2023?
The number will be worse. Why? Because we are merging two different
But will it
realities.
be close to the reality?
It will not. See, we are merging two different realities. We had a time where exchange rate was 400 plus, and a session and a period where exchange rate went to 1,000 plus. So when you look at what you are comparing, we make the number to be worse off. For people who are economists and who are researchers, they will understand what we are trying to do. Why? We may never be able to reverse inflation trend if we continue with the old narrative. We may never be able to. But that does not mean that if you go to the market tomorrow, price of food has improved. That will be a lie. That will not be correct.
Our reality is still the same.
Our reality is the same.
The quality of our economy is still the same. The depreciation of the lives of the average person, the hardship is still there.
Yes.
But only the name that we call it is changing.
Also, people that want to invest in our country, perhaps when they see a reduced inflation number, they may have confidence. And we need this. Two, when people see that the inflation number has changed, it may also it has its own positives. That's the truth.
Today, the exchange rate dropped too.
Yes, because of confidence.
The naira appreciated today.
Yes.
So, and
marginally,
Dr. Laje, if I put $2 million into the economy, Nigeria, the dollar naira will appreciate. Yes. It's artificial.
Yes.
It's not real. So the question is, our reality. And now I want my viewers tonight, wherever they're watching, to be able to sleep knowing where they belong, knowing the kind of economy let them not live in illusion. Let them not live in an illusion. If things are getting bad, let us see how we can get it better. Not deceiving ourselves. So the reality is that, Dr. Alaje, it may be a bad news for anyone watching tonight, is that things have not changed. Our lives are not better. But then, it's only the name we call it. Is that a fact? Okay, so if you heard the Bureau of Statistics head, what he said this is not about the price in the market. Mm-hmm. He said this is a different thing entirely. And how to explain it for people to understand it is that if the base year, the reference years before, the inflation cannot be as improved as this. But when we look at a year that already had a challenge, that we are in it, we are in a new era actually in economy. Our economy is in a new era from around August 2023 till date. But a full year we can reference. Look at how our economy was. Exchange rate in January 2024, it went to 1,900. That is the January we are referencing with this one. And exchange rate today is even better off than January, our parallel market, compared with January 2024. So if we compare it and it gave us 24%, 24.48%, then you would understand the impact of what happened to us. But because we are people that have resolved that whatever happened, we must make sure this country works. And that's the way I interpret this. Yeah. But to now say that inflation has improved from 34 to 24%, that will not be correct. So, and we see what's happened. There are those who will reference that Germany was trading in hyperinflation several years ago. And we do know Venezuela and Zimbabwe, a few years ago, they also crept into hyperinflation. And our inflation, headline inflation figures, was soaring, and we are not...
No, we already got beyond 33.3%. So we already became a major inflator. We already became a major risk at that.
So the question now is that does this help us in any way? The rebasing, the reassigning of the figures, because that's how I see it. The reassigning of the, and if you look at it, Dr. Alaji, look at the comparison and how drastically things have changed. If you look at on the right of your screen, is a figure as of December, right?
Yes.
As released by NBS, who says that the headline inflation year on year stood at 34.80%. But now, because of the rebasing, has now come down to 24.48%. Now, if you look at food inflation, where I'm very concerned, was 39.4, almost 40%, Dr. Alaji, in December, it's now gone to 26.08%. Core inflation, 29.28% as of December, 22.59%. Now, urban inflation, 37.29%, 26.9% in the recent figure. Rural inflation, December, 32.47%, 22.15%. These are our new figures, but our reality remains the same.
Our reality is the same. Food inflation in the real sense has not improved. It is not what you are seeing. So what matters at the end of the day, when I talk to people in economics, in meetings, and in boardrooms, I ask for those who are part of the downtrodden. The question I ask is, the meat in your pot, how much can your income buy? Will it improve or will it be the same? So if you to buy a ticket, is the price improving or is it becoming worse off? At the end of the day, you will measure inflation the way it impacts you. However, the only positive I can give to this, to my mind, is the confidence that government, in my mind, to my mind, government is looking for all means legitimate to boost confidence in the economy. And to that extent, I tell you that what we need now as a people is because if you look at FDI inflow to our country, you know that among other things that people have concern about and has also affected our rating is the issue of high inflation. Now, this does not mean that overnight inflation will drop because, you know, a number of persons have said, like calls I received today, are we working to the answer of 15% that Mr. President has projected? And I laughed. I said, listen, we have adjusted the reference here from what happened in 2024 with relatively poor economic performance to 2025. Now, we are still saying that as poor as 2024 was in terms of economic occurrence, we are even the inflation. Prices, average price level still increased by over 24%. That's an issue. Now, what we should look at, what is the standard yardstick if you want to measure inflation? Not my figure, according to the Central Bank of Nigeria. The preferred number for us, or the target number for us in terms of inflation, is 6 to 9%. But look at the multiple of what we have. What you see, many people will say, maybe from tonight or tomorrow, is that inflation has so improved. That would be a fallacious statement. It has not improved. Reality remains the same, but we have changed the reference here. It's like saying unemployment improved from 33%, and the question you ask is that how many new jobs have we created in private sector or public sector?
The phenomenal action of President Tinubu, he took the bull by the horn, but whether or not the bull has tossed the economy outside of the fence is another ballgame entirely. The issue of the unification of the exchange rate, of the exchange windows, and the removal of subsidy. These are fundamental decisions that would impact, and that those who say, politically speaking, some presidents or past leaders have run away from taking those political decisions. He took it, but here we are today. But let's look at it. Wherever you may be watching, don't judge Bola Tinubu yet. Look at this and judge him by what you see. This picture that I'm going to show you, the headline inflation, the graph that shows the annual and the monthly rise and fall in terms of this chart. Take a look at it and how things have gone from at least January 2024 for a whole year. It gives you an understanding of what the Tinubunomics, the idea of economics of the Tinubu government, what is meant. Look at what it has been. You will see how it has grown. Dr. Alaji, it went, the beginning of 2024 was terrible, if you look at it.
Yes.
And the yellow line simply tells you the monthly, the month on month.
Yes.
And you will see how things are going up until the end of the year. It does look like we ended the year on a good note, as far as the eyes can see and the figures can tell us, Dr. Alaji.
Yes, so what you see here from January to December 2024 follow the old trend, the reference here we have been coming with. But right now, the goalpost technically has changed. We are no longer looking at the reference year of 2029. We are now looking at reference year of 2024. So if you want to compare President Tinubu with the previous administration in terms of inflation, we need to draw a line on December 2024. Not to start looking at 2025. So 2025 references 2024. That is President Tinubu administration versus President Tinubu administration. Because that is what the reference is actually saying. If you now compare 2025 with 2023, you will be making a lot of mistakes. It is correct what the Bureau of Statistics says, that 2024 is referencing 2024. So you can see the number. Right. Now it will be wrong if we now think that the inflation number has improved or has decreased. It will not be technically correct. What we'll be saying is that we've changed the base year. Because we've changed the base year, we have the new number. We have to trend this.
Let's run with a different energy, with a different focus, and see where it leads.
And that will help us as
so,
people.
So headline inflation on one, you see the trend and how it flew from January 2024. Let's look at core inflation and food inflation. Let's see how the chart and how things are leaving us as of from January of 2024 to December of 2024. Food versus core inflation. Food inflation is in the blue and core inflation is in the yellow. Now, food inflation, look at it, there was a sharp decline and in the figures, and it tells us that the same thing with headline inflation, we saw a sharp decline onto December. Good thing, isn't it?
No, so again, the food inflation you saw in blue last year compared to 2023. The one we are using now is compared to 2024. There are policy introduction in 2023 that has made compared to 2024 to be worse off. Right now, we are not even making reference to what has happened in previous years. We've called them to 2024. So you will see that that drop. And to me, I'm a bit, indifferent about calling it, an improvement or a worse off. No. Research, what it tells us is that we have changed the base year, and because we have changed the base year, we will now have a new result, and this is the result that we have now. So last year was a very challenging year, and the temptation will be here to say that this year everything will have dropped 10% in inflation. That's not what even the head of National Bureau of Statistics have said. He was very careful in making his presentation so that people don't misinterpret it to say something
quick
else.
Task before we close this conversation, Dr. Alaje. Now, look, for anyone who is smart and wise living in this country, should take these figures and don't play with them. And first and foremost, I'd like you to advise my viewers tonight that are watching you. If you were them, what would you say they should be doing right now? What would they use these figures to do in terms of the expectation, an increased expectation, or just leave the expectation the way it is, or what should they be expecting? We're seeing February of 2025. The journey is not too far into the year. We still can make amends in our lifestyle and everything. But what are the expectations? What do you see for this year, generally, under the Tinubu government in terms of economic performance, and what my viewers tonight should be expecting?
Okay, so first of all, the reality has changed because of this rebasing, and I can tell you this is not the only rebasing that will happen. GDP will be rebased. I'm expecting between $350 billion to $550 billion, depending on where Bureau of Statistics stays. A Bureau of Statistics says that is going for the upper limit for $550 billion. That will have tremendous implication. Income per capita of Nigeria will sporadically increase. Again, it may not be that will be a reality on the immediate, or you suddenly see that Nigerian economy becomes more robust, or people suddenly become more wealthy. But it does something. I will tell you the good, the average, and the worst. What it does on the mind of investors is that Nigerian economy is robust enough, Nigerian economy can absorb more investment, and it also boosts confidence. The challenge there is that tax to GDP will suddenly appear as though it has reduced. The man in FRS has done a lot of work. We now say, the tax to GDP is very small because we have rebased our economy. We need to do more to rebase to expand the tax bracket and to do more in taxation. That is the second point. The third point, which of course most of the time could be the challenge, is that what happens to growth. people will be grappling to see the impact of the new growth that is announced. Like people will be wondering now that, oh, you said inflation has increased, but it's not impacting us. Why? Because we have changed the component, the weighted average, how we calculate inflation. That's one. Two, we have also added another item to COICOP. Three, we have in fact changed the most important thing in inflation measurement, which is year of reference. So what should I be doing? What would you be doing as a Nigerian? If you are selling, you have to be careful. Because right now, most of the things people use is exchange rates. The advice given to central bank over and over again, I'm happy, as against many people are not happy, that central bank is intervening in the market. Honestly, I have championed central bank must intervene in the market. And when central bank announced that it will be giving 25,000 to BDC, is a major good news that came to Nigeria. You know why? Because at the end of the day, we don't work in central bank. We don't work in Ministry of Finance. Mr. President Tinubu is the president of Nigeria. I know he's not an economist, but you know what happens? What will determines the future, whether we be president or not, is how does exchange rate affect all of us? There is relative stability. You talk about improvement. If central bank continue to give confidence, I don't care the method of bringing confidence. When you put confidence in an economy, the citizens will believe that their welfare has improved. So now we are seeing it with inflation. What are we trying to achieve? Confidence that don't worry, things will be better. And also on economy.
We need to close now. We need to apologies. We need to close. The final and very sharp one. I'm going to put you on the spot, and I know it's difficult for you. You don't like this, but I'll drag you into it. And I need the answer just in 10 seconds because we need to wrap this up. In your own assessment, is the Tinubu economy team performing or not? 10 being the highest mark, 1 or 0 being the lowest, but how will you grade them? Let Nigerians know tonight. I know this is difficult for you, but a lot of people know you that you speak the truth.
But allow me to start with macroeconomic variables so that people know where I draw my reference point.
And I don't have the time.
Okay, so I will rush. What is happening to unemployment? What is happening to inflation? What is happening to exchange rate? And lastly, what is happening to export? If you consider these 4 parameters, I will say right now, I will give them a 5/10. Not a pass, not a failure. But maybe...
But they won't repeat the class. They may not repeat the class.
The class of life, some of the time, you might not have to repeat. The class of life, some of the time, you might not have to repeat.
You may not be able to catch up easily.
Yes. Because if you ask on the street, things are still very...
So the Tinubu government need to tighten their belt?
See,
not Nigerians alone tightening.
No, government must tighten. I've advised about government expenditure. Why are we borrowing? When we continue to spend high and we are not making enough in revenue, we will go back to borrowing. When we say are not able to pay, then we'll be forced to want to review our taxes.
Dr. Alage, you say that Tinubu government, as of today, they are an average economic performer.
I will give them that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Paul Alage, for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Well, we'll take a break, everyone, but when we return, our attention will be in Osun and Edo State. How are we going to be able to navigate some of the storming waters in a controversial conversation that is next? After this break, everyone, join us again. Let's switch to this segment of the program. Is as if killing 2 birds with 1 stone, but we'll try to see how far we can go with that. Tonight, I'll be getting into Osun matter, a very, very touchy issue, and of course, later on, I will also be touching on the Edo education. You remember what happened when the Secretary to the government of Edo State came on the program? He said whatever happened with Edo Best was a sham and fraud. Well, the former commissioner under Obaseki government is live for us or virtually, and she will be joining me to discuss this. But first and foremost, let me take you to a rather sad story which happened in Osun State yesterday, where 5 people or so are said to have been killed. One of those who have been killed, a council head, was buried earlier today. But how did we get here? What exactly has gone wrong in the rather peaceful state of Osun? I'm being joined tonight on the program by a lawyer to give us some legal perspectives. Mr. Palumi Olajengbesi is live for us here in our Abuja. So thank you so much,
thank you,
Mr. Olajengbesi, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You know Osun politics very well, and we do know that a lot of these came out of the legal issues. How did we get here?
You see, the experience we have in Osun State is very sad. It is simply because, for me, I think this is not just about law. This is essentially about politics. This is politics taken too far. This is a solid experience that the people are seeing in Osun State. Osun State is not like this before, but when you have politicians who have uncontrollable appetite for power, you begin to have this kind of experiences. The position of law is very clear as to the matter of Osun State. So I do not believe that anyone in the state should be causing such kind of crisis. If you look at the antecedent of the current governor of Osun State, you can never have any record of violence or anything that has to do with violence since he commenced his administration. The state has been very peaceful, and the people of Osun State are happy about the government. But painfully, because of how politicians react to issues, when you have legal matters, you address them in line with law. What are the legal issues in Osun State? What is the question about the local government council? It is actually straightforward. The position of the law cannot be controverted. The position of the law is clear. In Osun State in 2022, the then government hurriedly put up a local government election and conducted the election. However, the PDP, in line with the law, approached the Federal High Court in Osogbo, and the election was challenged. The APP as well, Action People's Party, challenged that election. And the Federal High Court in Osun State nullified that election and sacked all the local government council. This was not just about the decision from the matter raised by the PDP. It was also a decision from the APP matter. And the APC approached the Court of Appeal, which is the right thing to do. The Court of Appeal heard the matters. The Court of Appeal held the PDP matters and also heard the matter of APP. In the APP matter, the Court of Appeal dismissed the appeal of the APC. So it means that the judgment given at the Federal High Court is still subsisting. And that judgment is in rem. That judgment affects all political parties in Osun State, and that's the current state of affairs. If you look at the matter, the matter of the Court of Appeal raised by the PDP, raised by APC, challenging the decision of the court as per the PDP matter, the Court of Appeal considered the matter. 4 issues were raised, and the Court of Appeal thought that the first and the second issue, which essentially is about procedure and the processes of conducting, of initiating the matter before the Federal High Court. The Court of Appeal took a decision, and after taking the decision, the Court of Appeal concluded that the third and the fourth issues are mere academic issues because there's no reason to go into the matter again. And the Court of Appeal nullified the decision of the Federal High Court as per the PDP. Now, if that matter has been nullified, the decision of the Court of Appeal as per the APP still remains and is still valid.
So let me jump in quickly. Now, you look at it, the question is, there are those who will say, the witch cried in the night and the child dies in the morning. Yeah, this is a very popular say in Yoruba land. The governor came out the night before, or the day before on Sunday, that there is going to be mayhem. And there are those who will say, where did the governor get that information from? And there are those of the APC. Senator Basiru Ajibala was here yesterday and he said, look, the governor is the instigator-in-chief of the crisis that is happening.
That is not correct. You see, the governor is the chief security officer of the state. The governor has information. People give reports. Security agencies give reports to the governor. The governor got information that there will be security crisis, security breach in the state. And as a governor who understands the rule of law, he alarmed and informed the general public that some individuals who are desperate about having political power are about to create crisis as it affects social issues. And he has done the right thing. Look, in a proper democracy where federalism is truly practiced, the governor has the right to give instruction to the chief, as the chief security officer of the state, to the security agencies on what to be done.
But a lot of APC leaders were killed. And their names were mentioned right here on the program yesterday. One of them was buried earlier today. So the question is that how can a governor be seated and that is happening?
When as the chief security officer of the state, the governor is supposed to give instruction to the head of security agencies. Before the crisis, the governor raised alarm. This alarm is all over the world. I expect in a very serious society that the president and of course, the Inspector General of Police should have taken immediate steps. And again, if anyone wants to forcefully take over power, that is actually wrong.
So let's look at what happened. The APC it differs on the position of the Court of Appeal. The APC thinks that the Court of Appeal has asserted and says, look, the local government chairman should rightfully take their office. And the
Court of Appeal, the judgment of the Court of Appeal is in public domain.
So you say that you're saying that the APC is misinterpreting the
No, I think some people misinterpreting the Court of Appeal decision are just dishonest intellectuals who don't want to address the real issue. And the position of the law is very clear. The APC raised 4 issues before the Court of Appeal. The first issue borders about the process, the amended originating summons in which the matter was commenced at the Federal High Court. The second issue talks about when the course of action properly accrued. All of these 2 issues borders about the jurisdiction of the court to hear the matter in the first place. Then the third and the fourth issue, which would have restated the local government council, was not addressed by the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal merely concluded, having addressed that the Federal High Court in the first place lacks jurisdiction to entertain the PDP's matter, that it is now academic to treat other matters. And now let me tell you, if there is a judgment of the APP already given by the Federal High Court, and it was appealed at the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal in its own wisdom dismissed that appeal, it means that the judgment that is subsisting today is the judgment of the Federal High Court in the APP matter. And so the APC themselves and everybody, every political party is duty bound to comply with the law.
Lives have been lost, and sadly so. How do you hope and think that this matter can be resolved? Because things are tense. The governor had instructed that the citizens of the state should stay away from the local government offices. In fact, the NLC or Labour generally had told their workers to refrain or to stay away from the offices, to not work in the meantime. How do you ensure that the grassroots governance in Osun State is not killed and governance is going to be run in Osun State?
The best way to do it is that key stakeholders in the state, key political actors must be willing to submit themselves to the process of the law. Let's say, for example, assuming without considering that APC or some individuals have a case that the Court of Appeal, assuming without considering, has actually restated the local government council that was dissolved. What they are supposed to do in law is to approach the court. You can actually approach the court for a contempt proceeding against anyone who is stopping the process. That's number one. You can actually also approach the court on the APP's matter or probably approach the Supreme Court. The reality is very simple. When people deliberately take steps to subjugate the process of law, there will be anarchy. And that is exactly what Mr. Governor has tried to avoid. So I think the governor should be commended for such effort. I am glad to hear that there are major steps going on right now to ensure that there is peace and stability. But you see, the challenge the government may be facing right now is the fact that the governor don't appoint the commissioner of police. The governor don't appoint the head of security agencies in the state. And so sadly, I don't want to talk about some things on TV, but there are news all over the place that some very powerful people who believe that they sit in position of authority in the villa and very, very close to the president are threatening every day that they will use the instrumentalities of security agencies to shut down Osun State. This is not even about PDP or APC. It is about the people of Osun State. For me, I do not see an issue as per the issue of law, because the law is actually very clear. And in a society where there is confusion as per a particular position of the law, there are steps that can be taken.
Thank you so much, Mr. Peluma Lagengbese, a lawyer who is also an interested party in the Osun case. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Let's turn our attention to Edo State, Edo Best. One woman who knows best about the Edo Best is Dr. Juan Ovewe, who is live for us virtually. Let me remind you, everyone, what happened here. The SSD, the Secretary to the Government of Edo State, and on this program said Edo Best was a fraud and was a sham of a program under Obaseki when he was governor. Let me remind you what happened on this program a few days ago.
The whole concept of Edo Best was a scam. It was nothing but PR to access World Bank's 75 billion grant. That's the summary. If you want to see the facts, you come to Edo State, you see the facts on the ground. No infrastructure, no teachers, no personnel. In schools in big local governments like Oredo and Ipoba Oka, you have no classrooms, no schools, no desk, no windows, no teachers. You buy a tab that needs power, no internet, and you say you are doing Edo Best. Edo Best was nothing but tabs that was displayed in 3 local governments when there are 18 local governments.
All right, Dr. Obiawe was the Commissioner for Education when Governor Obaseki was at the helm of affairs, was the governor of Edo State. Doctor, you oversaw a sham and a fraud. That's how the SSC described it. How do you defend this?
Thank you, Sean, for inviting me. I think that if we hope to move forward as a state, as a country, we cannot afford to politicize education. Edo Best was not and is not a sham. I wish the SSG, the current SSG of Edo State, would go back and look through the copious documents and reports that were left behind, so that he's duly informed about what it is that we did. When Governor Obaseki was sworn into office in November 2016, the first place the then governor visited was Benin Technical College. After that, he went to the Edo State College of Agriculture, Igoriaki. And why did he do that? Governor Obaseki was very clear from the very beginning that education was going to be a priority for him. And he said that if he had 100 naira, he was going to spend 40 naira on education. And so almost 100 days later, from when he was sworn into office, there was a workshop on basic education. And then there were a series of other workshops on other sectors of the state that the government wanted to focus on. So far now, this current administration in Edo is approaching 100 days in office. We don't know what they are planning to replace Edo Best with. When we came into office in 2016, we met very poor learning outcomes. Teachers were not going to school. Students were not learning. Pupils were in primary 6, getting ready to write the primary 6 exam, and they could not read and write. And so we had to put together a plan to address every facet of education in Edo. And we came up with the 6 pillars of Edo Best, Edo Basic Education Sector Transformation. And the pillars went from governance, using technology, stakeholders engagement, all the way to learning outcomes, to learning assessment, to school environment and infrastructure, and then value. So these are the things we did over the
Dr. Obiawe, let me ask some very direct and basic questions. So in terms of teacher recruitment, in all the years Edo Best, because Edo Best was meant to be a program which is supposed to help to retool teachers, to engage young minds and students to get them back to classroom, and also to uplift infrastructure in Edo State, basically. But in terms of teacher recruitment, how many teachers did Edo Best get?
5,000 teachers were recruited under Governor Obaseki, and an additional 3,000 teachers were going through the process. And when this current administration came in, I believe they disengaged all of them. So if they are saying that there aren't enough teachers in schools now in Edo State, what happened to the 5,000 that Governor Obaseki recruited under the Edo Star Teachers Fellows Program?
Were these recruitment done on a permanent basis, or they were done on contract as a contract teacher for Edo education system, or what?
As part of our Edo Best education reform, we realized that it was important. The quality of the teacher in the classroom is the main ingredient that would positively impact learning outcomes. So what we did in 2020 was to introduce a teacher induction program called Edo Star, Edo Supporting Teachers to Achieve Results. The whole idea was that these fellows will teach for 2 years. After 2 years, based on performance, they will then be permanented. So it was an induction process, the most successful thus far in the whole of West Africa. So they've come in and they've practically dismantled everything, don't understand what's behind, and they're making all kinds of unfounded claims.
So Edo Best was launched in 2018, am I right? And it spanned through the years Governor Obaseki was in office, and it was supposed to be a flagship governance program or policy direction of the Obaseki government. So if you were to rate it, in 2018, how was Edo State rated in terms of education? And when Governor Obaseki left office, What was the rating? Can you tell us?
In 2018, like I said earlier, the indicators were quite poor for Edo State. Learning outcomes was very poor. Literacy rate was very low. Teachers' absenteeism was quite high. Teachers' morale was low. When Governor Obaseki came into office, it met on ground the fact that what they call teachers' special allowance, which is a monthly allowance that government pays to teachers on top of their salary, had been stopped in 2012. It met on ground that teachers had not been promoted in Edo since 2011. It also met on ground that the teachers' leave transport grant, which is a lump sum payment they get on the anniversary of their recruitment into service, had also been stopped in 2012. There were no subventions to schools. All of those were stopped since 2012. And then on top of that, no teachers had been hired in Edo since 2008. So these were all the things that the governor had to tackle head on.
So let me ask quickly, Dr. Ovawe, as it stands right now, when Governor Obaseki left office, the dropout rate in Edo State was over 20%. Out of school rate for the upper secondary school was over 20%. How do you defend this rate?
So you have to look at what did we meet on ground. And for us, when we came in, we started with, in 2018, the reform started with basic education, just primary 1 to 6. And then by 2021, we had done enough work that we could then expand to secondary schools and technical colleges. So between 2021 and 2024, when Governor Obaseki left office, a lot of significant progress had been made in secondary and technical education as well. So the indexes are all there, the indicators are all there. Under Governor Obaseki, Edo State was named the state with the lowest out-of-school children in Nigeria. And that was not by fluke.
What about the pass rate? What about the examination pass rate? Let's use WAEC, for example. What was the rating? Where does Edo State stand in 2018 and in 2024?
2018, there were lots of issues with miracle centers, exam malpractice, and all of those things. We came in, we cleaned up all of that, put in place, using technology, by the way, and ensuring that teachers were in class and teaching, and that we're covering the curriculum and providing a very robust co-curricular activities to all our students. So schools became more exciting, and we saw that in learning gains. We saw that in the fact that by the time Governor Obaseki was leaving office, Edo State Secondary School and TVET students were performing top 2 in WAEC in the country. So the indicators are there, like I would keep saying.
What happened then, Dr. Joan, that there are classrooms that are even animals find it difficult to stay in Edo State, and these are supposed to be classrooms for learning. Infrastructures are dilapidated in Edo State. What happened? These are some of the legacies left behind. What happened?
Infrastructure. We inherited a huge inventory of dilapidated schools across Edo State. Edo has about 1,400 basic schools, 300 secondary schools, 5 technical schools, and 6 tertiary institutions. Governor Obaseki touched all of them. Over 55% of our primary schools were renovated or rebuilt. And it wasn't just focusing on classroom. It was the other amenities, playground.
But it was not able to fix most of them, because in almost every local government there are people who will put up pictures of how schools were, classrooms and infrastructure in schools in Edo State as led by the Obaseki government. Was it that the funds were not enough, or the ball was dropped at some point?
Well, like I mentioned, we have about 1,400 primary schools. It's not possible for one government, and these schools have been decayed for over 40 years. So it wasn't possible for one government, who was also working in other sectors, in health, primary health care, in institutional reform, in civil service reform, in economic revolution. The governor was doing a lot, the administration was doing a lot of things simultaneously. But at least in all that we did, we were able to renovate, rebuild over 60% of the basic schools in Edo State.
So you disagree with the Edo State government's position of the performance of the Obaseki government in education, Dr. Johan?
Oh, absolutely. Again, it's not just what I'm saying or what they are saying. You look at Lagos State, for example. Lagos State decided to adopt Edo State, and they came up with a co-excel. Rwanda came in, understudied what we did. And when we talk about even the World Bank funds, we started Edo State in 2018. The World Bank fund didn't come until 2022. So the work was already being done.
Dr. Edwin, thank you so much, Jose. Madam Education, the Commissioner for Education under Obaseki administration. Thank you so much indeed. You've got a right of reply tonight on the issue of Edo Best. Thank you so much indeed. Well, that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Akimale. God bless Nigeria.